welcome back to part 2 of the François debate. We've had a comment on Twitter. Whatever the West does, it will get no credit, only criticism. Time to allow Arab world / North Africa to solve its own disputes. Thank you, Leslin, for that comment. So, our discussion here. Palmyra's liberation. Will ousting Islamic State cement Bashar al-Assad's power? Guests here to continue a very heated debate. Carol Maalouf is journalist specialised in Islamic organisations covering the Middle East and Syria. Carol, thanks for being with us. Jacques Millard, député for Les Républicains, member of the Friends of Syria group at the National Assembly in Paris. Good to see you, Jacques. And on the other side of our studio, we have Wael El Khaldi, who's an activist and member of the Syrian Revolutionary Youth Movement. Wael, thank you very much for being with us. Jacques was about to make a point as we cut him off at the end of part 1.
The point I was going to make is that it is true that the regime has reacted in a repression way at the beginning. There is no doubt about that. And sometimes at, let's say, local level or regional level. But it is also true that the intervention of foreign states in this very beginning was very high. I've been mentioned by...
you mentioned Saudi Arabia, Qatar...
Not only, yes, but a peculiar point. The foreign minister of Syria mentioned to me that at the very beginning of the events, Erdogan came and saw Bashar and said, you are going to take in your government Brotherhood movement. And the other one said no, because we believe that the Brotherhood movement are a political movement and they use religion as a political aim, so I'm not going to that. And then Erdogan said to Bashar, you are going to have problems. So, you know, from the beginning on, there have been massive intervention of foreign states from into the Syria,
and are you saying
it has evolved in a proxy war very rapidly.
Let me just, before I let you guys reply to what Jacques said, just give you something else to think about, of course. The Syrian army retaking Palmyra. This is what sparked this whole discussion from ISIS, allowing archaeologists to assess the damage that the jihadists have done to the ancient citadel and some of the most remarkable Roman ruins, of course, almost preserved intact, much of it destroyed by ISIS, of course. Videos that were shot on Sunday show some of that destruction, but many World Heritage treasures are still standing. Shirley Sipon here. François has been looking at the situation on the ground in and around Palmyra.
The Temple of Bel destroyed, like the iconic Arch of Triumph. During their 10-month occupation of Palmyra, the Islamic State group damaged archaeological treasures. They pillaged homes, and this is how they left the museum. The Roman theater still stands, but that's where the jihadists committed horrific executions. None of the destruction surprised archaeologists. The Islamic State group had vowed to destroy the site. What experts weren't expecting is to find dozens of ruins intact, like the Agora.
First of all, the statue of Athena and the new city is in good condition. Then in the citadel and near the arch, the stones are in good condition too, and we can reuse them. The only problem left concerns the Bel and Bal-Shaman temples and the funerary towers.
Syria's antiquities authorities say they'll quickly evaluate the state of the stones in the citadel. They'll then start rebuilding the temples and tombs. But experts will first have to clear the mines the Islamic State group allegedly planted all over the ruins.
Shall I sip on with that? Well, can I bring you on this one? Because there were some people who said that when Palmyra was about to fall, when it fell, that people cared more about the ruins than about people.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Was that the thing that you felt?
This is the main problem, actually. There is hundreds of people has been killed there till now. No one talks about that. Everyone feeling pity for these temples. And then no one pointing on that jail has been killed, more than 20,000. No one pointing on that war there, what's going on exactly on the ground, how many people has been killed. All of that, everyone are actually afraid about refugees. And they don't ask from where they came. They just came from such areas, had such a kind of fights for, proxy war. I agree about this proxy war, but I will talk about that after.
So under Bashar al-Assad, already at Palmyra, there was this horrible feeling of what was happening, this horrible fear, these horrific killings going on. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it is the same. Nothing has been changed to the people on the ground. The Syrian people, they are saving and suffering from the same people, but in different hats.
But you'd say forcing out ISIS, Islamic State, Daesh, call them whatever you wish. That is a good thing, obviously. That is a good thing.
Well, in total, yes, but in the wrong hands at the same time. Yes.
Okay. Carol?
I had written that
Go ahead,
down,
go
but
ahead,
I
go
just
ahead.
have 2 points. First, I want to reply
Express yourself,
to the tweet that you received earlier about the West intervention. Well, as you've mentioned, the West did interfere with on the side of the opposition and the Islamists, as you're accusing them of being at the opposition by Turkey and Qatar. You forgot to mention Iran and Russia on the
other side,
regime side. However, what nobody talks about is the embargo on weapons that was imposed on the opposition. So it is not true that whatever
not true.
it is true. I was at the coalition meeting of Doha in 2013, and the military back then asked if there is going to be a lifting of the embargo on heavy weaponry, especially ground-to-air missiles, which could bring the airplanes down who were bombing people indiscriminately with barrel bombs, if you remember, and the weapons that could be used against the tanks. And back then, they were told there would not be a lifting of the embargo. So the West, while it had interfered in supporting
They
some
have
groups,
not-
however, they have embargoed the use of
you
weapons.
raise a bad question for your side.
So when the gentleman says, let the Arabs sort their problems out, well, let the West not interfere in the Arabs' affairs.
Yeah, well, that
by not
started by
imposing
Bush.
embargoes.
It started by Bush.
And then we would
don't
see
tell
if the
that.
Arabs can take care of themselves or not. So I just wanted to answer this
No,
point.
that's fine. Thank you for doing that.
However, let me just point out to the other point, and I'll be done. You mentioned that there were Islamists behind the oppositions. Have you heard of Michel Kilo and Georges Sabra? And I will repeat the names: Michel and Georges. Do they sound Christian?
Yeah, there are some few Christians.
Some few.
Yes,
you know
there
that
are
these
few.
people in 2005, after the assassination of Prime Minister Rafi al-Hariri in Lebanon, they got together with more than probably thousands of Syrian intelligentsia, of Alawites, of Druze, of Sunnis, of Christians, and they did the Damascus Declaration, which called for some freeing of media, of political groups. Allow me to finish, sir.
You are ruining your defense.
Hold on, sir. Where did these people end up?
You are ruining your defense.
Where did these people end up? They ended up in prison.
So you have expressed your view, I understand.
But what happened to the Damascus Declaration?
I understood you.
Jacques, go ahead.
You are taking, of course, there were few Christians inside the insurgents against the regime. I do agree with you. And
So
don't
it was
tell
not
me
purely Islamist.
But behind the well-organized organizations, they were Islamists. You like it or
Let
not,
me do
this
it
is
on
true.
2005.
Secondly, I would say
Second point, then Wales.
on the question of embargo, please, this is a region where you find so many weapons you want. And even the Western world has been delivering, has been sending arms there. And the French government lied to the parliament, the French parliament, where we say we never sent weapons. Of course they did. Of course they did. So don't tell me that the so-called moderate insurgent had no weapon. This is not true.
Well,
Wael, please.
Well, let's start from the beginning. I would accept all what you say.
Oh,
Okay, that's
really?
great for you. Yes. About the arms,
Not
I mean,
me.
if when I talk, let's say
No,
like
I'm
that.
just
It's
joking.
debate,
Go
you see.
ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, well, yes, okay. Everyone was sending arms to Syria. Yeah,
Unfortunately.
let's count how many aeroplanes full by arms from Russia and from Iran, and how many from Saudi Arabia and from Qatar. Well, in this debate, you're gonna go so far, you'll lose. But let me say something more than that. Actually, well, he is protecting minorities because now a Christian talks to you, and they said they are, underneath of Islamist inside of Syria, you see, while that was in 2010, you said. Okay, 2005, where also there is more Islamists in Syria, why they did that to Kurds? And to Kurds in Kamishli, and they killed them, all that. They did that all. They put them to the jail, and they killed many of them in 2004. Were there Islamists there? No, it was minorities there. Those minorities has been killed by the Assad regime. The same regime talks to us now. Wait for me. And those Christian you're talking about, they are. Because they are few people in Syria, 10%. So they are, if you go to the coalition, if you go to the oppositions, you will find that they are 10% of the oppositions.
Listen,
it's the same
if you want
percentage.
to revisit history, there have been mistakes, many mistakes made.
Well, okay, great.
Okay,
I would
now
agree
you
this.
have to take into account, do you want a political solution? Do you want peace?
I want to go with you, sir.
Take the situation as it is today.
Okay.
In the rapport de force.
But
Wait,
with
wait,
Bashar,
wait,
there will never be peace.
Wait for me,
With
please.
Bashar in power, if you
He
are
will stay.
No.
He will stay.
I would accept what you say, and we
will
should go to
stay.
political solution. You see, and Bashar did some mistakes, as you said. He shouldn't do it. It's mistakes. It's 500,000 has been killed. 5 million has been pushed out from the country.
Unfortunately, all the deaths are not the responsibility
where
of the
were you
regime.
and your sounds? Please, where were you and your sounds and your democracy sounds at that period, 2011, 2012? We were waiting for you. Actually, ask every demonstration guy. Everyone gets out on the streets. They were thinking that fancy word, European democracy, will come to save us.
Okay.
But 2 years, let me complete that because it's a big pain for us, you see.
The West did not act. The red line was drawn.
No,
the
no,
red line was
because-
crossed.
No, it's
the
all
West
doesn't
did not
fact.
act. And Jacques says that most of the deaths, they weren't all caused by the Assad regime. I'd understood from the reporting of what has happened that most of the deaths were caused by Bashar al-Assad setting
Only
his
by
troops on his own
Bashar?
people.
I used to be
I
in
don't
Damascus.
really
Sorry,
counting
I would
them,
tell you something
That's
for the
what I'd
first time.
understood.
It's a
You
civil
disagree.
war.
Let me tell you something. For the first time.
Nothing is worse than a civil war.
Indeed.
First
Nothing is
time on
worse.
media I say this. I used to be 2012 by Ali Abdel Karim, the Syrian ambassador of Lebanon. You see, in Lebanon, I used to go with him by his car to Ali Mamlouk. You know Ali Mamlouk. You met him there, sure. Abu Ayhan. Yeah, sure. I know. You met
You're
him.
sure of that?
Yes, I'm sure. So I mean, Ali Mamlouk. I met him in his office, and I was clearly with him. Just release 500 prisoners at that period, 2012.
Political
I had
prisoners.
I had document of this, and I told him we are ready to start political solution. At the same time, I was in his office. They were bombing a city of Douma, full by 3 million civilians by cannons. I said, just stop the cannons, silence the cannons, and we will start with you. He promised me good. Well, and I waited for that. 10 days in Lebanon, then I got jailed in Lebanon. They attacked my house in Lebanon, Lebanese army. Do you know why? Because I offered this. They don't want political solution. Don't say that to me. Say that to them.
Yes, but you forget only one thing. At the very beginning, I repeat it, and I will not say something different, that the interventions of other states, they are, of course, on one side, you have Iran, this is true, you have the Russians that step in, and on the other side, you have Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey, which has been, massively intervening in this country. And this is why, beyond the civil war, for about 2 or 3 years, this is a proxy war.
Where do we go from here? Just to sort of move this on a little bit, because it's clearly you agree on certain things, and there are certain things that you will always disagree on, and that's very.
Fortunately, this is a debate.
It's a passionate debate too, and I thank you all for exchanging those views in a very passionate way. But where do you take it from here? Because clearly, you're unhappy with Bashar al-Assad still being present. Jacques, I think I'm hearing from you that Bashar al-Assad is part of the solution, whatever that solution may be.
Not?
So, I mean,
I understood that.
So where do we go from here, Carol, where do we go from here?
If just about Bashar, you see, we go back to the idea of injustice. So if after all this, if the people, the perpetrators of this, Mr. Jacques, he calls it a civil war. I wouldn't call it a civil war. A civil war was Lebanon.
He's called it a proxy war.
No, but he said it's a civil war. This is a regime killing. This is a regime killing its own people. It's not a civil war. There are no factions fighting each other like the Lebanese war. This is a regime oppressing the people. This is how I personally see it. I don't see it as a civil war. It's a proxy war supported by the West. I do agree, but there is a regime and there are people, and the people need to be defended. So who is defending the civilians? This is a question. Now, to go back to the solution and where we go next. If amnesty is granted to all the perpetrators of this war, then there is no justice, and this will not end. So if the people who caused this, on the regime side and on the other side, if they are not brought to justice, this will not stop. So if you think that Bashar is part of the solution, you're making a huge mistake. If there is no peace without justice, sir. Unless there is justice,
okay, let's take it again.
There will not be a political solution.
Let's take things again. First of all, you said this is a regime which crashed down its own people. Okay. How is it that we have been explained at the very beginning that he's going to fall in 15 days and at Christmas he won't be there because this so-called Syrian Liberty Army, I don't know you said in English.
Free Syrian Army.
Free Syrian Army is going to win. Is to win. this was a big mistake because this so-called army did not really exist on the ground because they were found of villages, Katiba villages, which had no military power really.
Is it because the West didn't stand by that army? The West didn't support
Of course we sent arms to those people.
let me
Of course
tell you
we sent
something.
arms
Arms
to
were
this
sent,
army.
arms weren't
Well,
sent.
I met the Americans 2012 at the March 2012 at Jordan. Wait, Four Seasons Hotel. It's recorded and they can tell you not or yes. I told them, they said, we are supporting Free Syrian Army. I said, now Qaeda starts in Syria. What you gonna do? You will support us or not? They said, well, we support you. I said, I am on the ground. Tell me where. Wait
Arms
for
came
me.
from
They
Saudi
said,
Arabia, came
come
from
on,
Qatar,
when? 2013,
came from the
2000, I would
Turks.
accept that if it is
Came
true.
from the Turks.
Well, look, everyone sending weapons to Syria. Let's accept this. Avoid this now, okay? I accept this from you. But I'm talking about levels, you see. Now, once it was peaceful...
Level?
Well, sure.
Sure.
I mean, first of all...
Have you heard of what the chief of the Secret Service said in Turkey? That he confessed in front of journalists, and journalists were printed, now have now troubles in Turkey, that they have been sending the equivalent of armament 2,400 lorries.
You think we are happy of this? We are
2,400.
sad.
And that's nothing.
Your approach is totally wrong. Let me tell you
No,
something.
no,
Let me
not
tell you
wrong.
something. You think that... Wait.
Don't
you think that...
stand on one
Please,
side
you
only.
tell
No,
yourself
I'm not
that.
standing on
Let
that
me
side.
tell
Allow
you.
Well to make his point.
Let me tell you something. You think that Syrian people, free Syrian people, are happy by sending these weapons to the ground and allowing everyone to get weapons and to fight each other like this? Do you think we are happy? No. Free Syrian Army were the first people fighting Daesh, ISIS, in Aleppo, and they kicked them out. Where were American that time and the coalition and Idlib too?
They
so
kicked them out of
why,
Idlib. Who
why
kicked-
you didn't
who kicked
support
ISIS
that?
out of
Why you
Idlib?
didn't think that it's the freedom of the
But
Lebanon?
can I
Well,
ask you a question? Would you be willing to give up Assad to an international court for crimes against
First of
humanity
all-
if the opposition...
first of all,
allow me to
I
finish
am
the question.
not a Syrian.
If the
Hold on.
opposition gives up
We will
the
see afterwards.
leaders...
First of all, is to get peace and political solution.
I'm asking the
Jack-
question.
Secondly,
Carol
the
has a
Syrian,
valid
the
question, I think.
Would
Syrian,
you give up
the
Assad
Syrian
if the
people
opposition
will
give up
decide
the people
which
and
government?
they all go to an international
I am not
court?
the one to say this will be the
But you
Syrian
just said
government.
Assad is part of the solution.
Is part of the solution
so,
today.
so,
yes.
so when it serves your
Definitely,
interest,
yes.
he's part of the solution,
Even-
but when it doesn't
Julani?
serve your
Let me
interest,
ask
he's
this.
not?
What about Julani and Khalifa, Baghdadi? Are they
Baghdadi?
part of the solution or not?
But Baghdadi, you know what, is certainly injured, and maybe, I don't know when...
That's
it-
irrelevant.
For- for-
irrelevant.
okay,
Are you
Hold on,
saying
hold on.
should ISIS remain in Syria? Should there be a presence in Syria? Should it be allowed? Is that
As-
what you're
as
asking?
he,
him? Yeah.
as he approached the political solution, Assad killed 500,000 and he had the right to
No,
stay.
okay, so
that's
well,
Assad,
also
okay.
the same Daesh, they have the right to stay.
No,
This
I mean,
approach.
no. First of
if
all, the
Assad can
figures
stay,
of deaths
can Daesh be allowed to stay, ISIS?
270 and not 500,000. According to what we believe, which is an amount of dead, of course,
They are
and
our
this is
relatives.
awful. But secondly, I would say, I'm going to maybe to pinch you a bit, because I'm going to say, if you really are for those people fighting, you should not be sitting in the Hiltons and the all
I'm
the
sorry, sir. We
international...
just
No, no,
came
you
back.
shouldn't
I
go.
just came back from Syria.
I
I'm
didn't-
sorry.
Have you
I
been
just came
fighting?
back
No.
from
Have you
Syria.
been fighting?
No, I've been
Unfortunately-
witnessing. I've been a
Okay.
witness to
Unfortunately,
history myself.
Unfortunately, I wasn't in the Hilton before. I would accept your invitation to there, but really, actually, I wasn't there. I was in Syria. I has been kicked out from Syria to Lebanon, then jailed in Lebanon, and kicked out to Istanbul. In Istanbul too. They didn't
As well?
allow me. Yes, I came
you
to.
should-
Thanks for
then-
French
then very bad
democracy
luck.
accepted
Wait,
me
out
here,
of interest,
you
what was
see.
your crime out of interest? Why did they jail
Well,
you? What did they say you
I
did?
recorded the crime, a big bulk of medicine sent to Syria. This recorded in Lebanon and in Syria. In Lebanon too, 10 years jailed. I can send you the picture. In Lebanon, you can ask Mr. Ashraf Rifi. He is the general. He's my best supporter there.
So you
and
were
he said
basically
that.
jailed for bringing aid. That was it.
Exactly, you see. And
Okay.
he's talking about a project solution
Which
to this.
which completely just speaks for itself how ludicrous that is. Jacques, Bashar al-Assad stays then, and people are still going to be incredibly unhappy about what happens, aren't they?
Well, I tell you one
Is that what
thing.
France wants, do you think?
No. France, the positions of the French government today, as
Because the recent delegation went, obviously.
they say it seems because I'm not so sure of the exact attitudes, that of course if we want to have peace, we have to take into account that Bashar in power today, and at the end of the process, maybe he will have to leave. But I'm not so sure this will be really the final position of France.
Assad would never leave under those circumstances, would he?
I think there is a problem here, and if you give me a minute, okay. What everybody is alluding to is the experiences that they had with the de-Baathification in Iraq and the failure of the state, and in Libya as well. So everybody keeps giving this, the pretext or the excuse that, if Bashar al-Assad leaves, then the state institutions and whatever remains might collapse, which is a total fallacy because there are 23 million Syrians. So why would it all hang on to one person? I'm sure there are other people within the regime. Allow me to finish.
I mean, ISIS set up a state and started taxing or extorting money out of people really quickly. So structures can be made quickly, can't they?
And they can be made and they can be preserved. And if there is another maybe there can be found another person.
I have a lot of Syrian friends in Damas, and so when I phoned to them, they said to me that what you say, this is not the majority in Syria.
Sure.
Many say,
sorry, I am from Damascus. Now Bashar Assad ruling 20% of Syria. Yes, the majority of this 20% accepting Assad. But what about the other 80% of Syria? Are they accepting Assad?
You said 20 to 80.
We need to leave it
I'm
there.
not so sure. I'm not so sure
Jacques,
you're right.
Well, and Carol, thank you very much indeed for an extremely lively debate. Media Watch is next. We are joined by James Cretan, our media correspondent, Media Watch correspondent. James, great to see you. We've had an extremely lively debate with Jacques Millard from the Républicain, of course, and member of Friends of Syria for the National Assembly. Two guests on the other side of the studio who had just turned out were very opposed to what Jacques had to say. They are Carol Malouf, journalist specialised in Islamic organisations, recently in Syria. We appreciated your insight. And next to Carol, of course, Wael El-Khadi, who is an activist, a member of the Syrian Revolutionary Youth Movement, who Wael told us he was thrown in jail for taking supplies, humanitarian supplies, to his own country, which strikes us as a completely ridiculous situation. James, I know you've been observing stuff online. I know you've got lots to add at this point of the programme. So tell us, what have you got?
All right. Well, a couple of technical issues, first off. But I'll tell you about how it's been playing out online.
Please do.
A lot of Russian media
have loads to say.
Please help.
They will. You can't stop them.
Sputnik.com, Russia Today, various other Russian language media have been really talking up the extent to which the destruction was less bad than had been worried about.
In Palmyra, yeah?
In Palmyra, okay. the various constructions have not been completely annihilated as the fear might have been. You have drone images that are being put up on YouTube and elsewhere showing, really talking up the role of Russian troops backing Assad's troops.
Can I pause you there? Sorry, because it's what we were saying about people are more concerned about the ruins than about people.
Did they picture the blood on the ground, the people that's been killed? No, they didn't picture that, you see. That's only temples and temples and temples. What about the people? Till now, I mean, it's really hypocrisy.
And again, we're hearing one side of the story as we started our discussion. It's only the regime and the Russian side covering the story.
Well, I think certainly Russian media are focusing on this, but what I've seen is, for example, Slate, the French edition of Slate, slate.fr, is talking about the fact...
Just going through what we've got and finding what people are saying.
Right. And slate.fr is talking about the fact that one of Assad's most violent prisons was in Palmyra, and the fact that we're often referring now to a lot of media are referring to Palmyra being freed when in fact it's Assad's forces taking it back. So certainly the choice of it's been freed from Daesh control, but has it been freed?
When is a liberator just another occupier? That's the issue, Jacques, isn't it, I suppose?
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
That's right. So in any case, really, it's depending on which media you're looking at. The focus on the monuments being saved, the city being freed from Daesh, or whether this is just another step of control being handed back to Assad's forces, and whether or not that's a good thing for the people of Palmyra. So quite a divergent take on it in the media, depending on, as always is the case with coverage of Syria, depending on the country you're in, the political point of view.
Let's go around and get a final word from our guests before we call it a day on the debate. Jacques?
Well, I think that the only point which is important is that the ISIS is rolling back. And we have maybe a chance, and then we may have a chance to have, let's say, an open government in Damas and step by step going to a political solution.
Okay. Well then, Carol. Well,
taking ISIS out is just like taking Assad out. The same. You cannot take one without taking the another. Just like what's happened in Palmyra. They destroyed the prison for the regime. Then the regime took again Palmyra without the prison, which is, kind of helping each other, enemies stuff. The Syrian people will not go to political solution as long as Assad is there. So no Assad, there is political solution. However, anyone could push and put pressure to put a political solution will not success. We'll go again to the war unless Assad and ISIS are out.
OK, Carol started this whole programme and you're going to finish it. Carol.
Thank you. Well, what surprises me is usually that ISIS, whenever they are, whether in Ramadi or in Mosul, I was at Mosul Dam when they withdrew, they plant a lot of booby traps and IEDs. And it takes a long time for the forces, whether the Iraqis or the Peshmerga back then, to go in the city. What surprises me is the speed that the Syrian army managed to get into Palmyra after ISIS withdrew. And this poses a question. Has ISIS changed its strategy, or were they actually there? What really happened? Because we really don't know the other side of the story, and this is always...
It's a small city in the desert.
It doesn't matter. Ramadi was all blown up by ISIS booby traps.
It's another story.
This is according to Newsweek, not according to me.
Thanks to Jacques Mia, our thanks to Wael El-Khadi, and our thanks to Carol Marlouf for that amazingly passionate debate about Palmyra and what happens next, of course. Thank you for watching. Thanks to James, too. Stay with us here on France 24.